So, so today we are starting with uh, the very beginning of Bhagavad Gita as it is. So last week we discussed about the glorification of Bhagavad Gita, isn't it? The glorification of Bhagavad Gita is very well given in many um, Puranas, many Puranas, Padma Purana, even a little bit of in other Puranas also. Especially Padma Purana, very nicely glorified Bhagavad Gita, especially the verse we read many verses, and one verse especially stands out where it is saying it what? Yatra Gita Vicharasya Patanam Patanam Shrutam. So wherever this Gita is being discussed, listened, and whichever way around this one, what happens? Tatraham nischitam prudvi. Tatraham nischitam prudvi. So there, the Lord is clearly telling that I am Nivasami Sadaivahi. So I am always there. That is what Krishna is telling, or Lord Narayana is telling. So that means whenever we are discussing Bhagavad Gita, don't consider that, oh, this is something we are discussing it to learn or to get some knowledge or something at all. Something out of it. Yes, we are getting knowledge. We came to know about what is Gita and all, but back of mind, remember always this Gita is is Krishna himself. This is no different than Krishna. This is no different than Krishna. Especially another verse we read about. What is it? Sarvopanishado Gavo Dugdha Gopalananda. So, out of all these Upanishads, Gita Upanishad is the best of it. Is the best of it. It is like a cow. It is like a cow. And Krishna is what? He is the one who is milking the cow. He is milking the cow. Then who is drinking those milk? Partha Sudhir Bhokta. Partha Vatsa Sudhir Bhokta. Dugdham Gitamritam Mahed. So this Dugdham, this milk, who we are drinking? We and the devotees. Arjuna and the devotees are drinking. That means we all know that by drinking milk, we get all the nourishment, isn't it? We consider cow is like a mother. I don't know. I think many of you already familiar with it, especially in India. Those mothers who don't have milk or who are unable to breastfeed their children, the alternative is basically cow milk, right? We feed cow milk. Many houses, especially I know in my house too, especially my second brother is most of the time he is on the cow milk. My mom is really kind of so um so that is how. So basically it will give the nourishment. So by reading Bhagavad Gita we get that nourishment, and especially the Bhagavad Gita we are reading is Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita as it is. So as we discussed in the last class, we come across 860 different commentaries on Bhagavad Gita. That was, Vyadavyasa, who written in Sanskrit, that was translated or commented by other acharyas, nearly 860, from all the way from atheistic people to theistic people. So the one we follow is Bhagavad Gita as it is, which Prabhupada has delivered to us. So this is very important, especially if you have a hardbound cover or a physical book. If you look at the back of that book is having quotes from different great people who read Bhagavad Gita, and especially the first page of that Bhagavad Gita book inside, if you look at it, that book, it is especially the one that was written by Prabhupada is scrutinized by different or various universities, and some of them are accredited that one. because in especially in few universities, they are accepting Bhagavad Gita as a referential book, or referential for to get a PhD in philosophy or religious studies. So, for us to get a doctorate in religious studies, we must refer these books, especially Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita, as it is a very well reputed in the world. Many great professors are accepted it. This is a very well written or very well commented book. So today we are reading from the very beginning, the first page itself. Why especially is, lot of times for any books or something, it is our normal tendency that we skip prefaces, we skip introductions, we skip lot of things, and we straight away jump into the main story. That is what we do. But this is not another novel which we are just reading it from. No, we are trying to study this one. We are trying to understand or trying to read behind the lines. Behind the lines. If we all remember it, Krishna mentioned this is Rajavidya Rajaguhyam. He said the secrets of all, or the king of secrets, king of the secrets. So we may ask a question that what is the secrecy here if everything is clearly written here and everything is revealed here? Any person who knows English, they can open and read it and they can get whatever they wanted. This is just a novel reading, but that is not what we want. We want what is behind the lines, what is in between the lines. That is what it is. That is what Krishna exactly mentioned. Guhyam, secret. That is secret. That secret only revealed to the devotees through the acharyas. Through the acharyas. That is tatvidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya. So the fourth chapter, 34th verse is clearly telling that why this has to be heard from only the devotees instead of we reading ourselves just add. We can read it. There is no problem at all. We can read it. This has, especially Prabhupada has written this one in case if there is nobody or no association, at least we have association of Krishna in the form of a book. And especially he wrote purports in that connection. But if we can discuss it, that is nothing like it. That is the ultimate of it. Machitta madgata prana bodhayanta parasparam. Bodhayanta parasparam. Parasparam means one to another, right? Bodhayanta. Bodhayanta means discussing, giving one to another. I know something, you know something. Whatever you know, you give it to me. Whatever I know, I give it to you. This is bodhayanta parasparam, helping one another. Kathayantascha mam nityam tushyanti cha ramanti cha. So we discuss this every day. And by doing that, what are we getting it? Ramayanti. That means enjoy. Our mind become light, less excited. Now we constantly live in anxiety, isn't it? Constant anxiety. Oh, what will happen to me next? What is my, what is going on at the office? Whenever something happened in the office, what will happen? Immediately we got inside our heart, there's a bell ringing. Out of blue moon, like yesterday, like 2 days back, I was told that one of my colleague got fired. Even I didn't even know that he got fired. I was under the impression that he is getting an extension for his project. But all of a sudden I came to know that his last working day is last Friday. And that was told like on what, Monday evening or Tuesday evening, they told. Like they haven't even given 2 weeks notice. So my point is here, especially this, we live in that kind of anxiety world. We constantly in anxiety, but we can get rid of that anxiety by understanding Gita. This is my personal experience. This is my personal experience. Bhagavad Gita helped me a lot to move off from there. So what we do is we will read it from the beginning, and whoever is having right in front of computers, one of you can start off reading. If any newcomers who can read, I appreciate that. If any newcomers who would like to try, anyone would like to try, whoever is in front of the computers, is it possible? One of the new devotees can read it. Anyone would like to try? No? Any other? Anyone would like to try?
I will read, Prabhuji.
Yes, Krishna Prabhu.
Setting the scene. Although widely published and read by itself, Bhagavad Gita originally appears as an episode in Mahabharata, the epic Sanskrit history of the ancient world. The Mahabharata tells of events leading up to the present age of Kali. It was at the beginning of this age, some 50 centuries ago, that Lord Krishna spoke Bhagavad Gita to his friend and devotee Arjuna. Their discourse, one of the greatest philosophical and religious dialogues known to man, took place just before the onset of war. A great fratricidal conflict between the 100 sons of Dhritarashtra and on the opposing side their cousins, the Pandavas, or sons of Pandu. Dhritarashtra and Pandu were brothers born in the Kuru dynasty, descending from King Bharata, a former ruler of the earth from whom the name Mahabharata derives. Because Dhritarashtra, the elder brother, was born blind, the throne that otherwise would have been his was passed down to the younger brother Pandu. When Pandu died at an early age, his 5 children, Yudhishthira, Bhima, Arjuna, Nakula, and Sahadeva, came under the care of Dhritarashtra, who in effect became, for the time being, the king. Thus, the sons of Dhritarashtra and those of Pandu grew up in the same royal household. Both were trained in the military arts by the expert Drona and counseled by the revered grandfather of clan Bhishma. Yet the sons of Dhritarashtra, especially the eldest, Duryodhana, hated and envied the Pandavas. And the blind and weak-minded Dhritarashtra wanted his own sons, not those of Pandu, to inherit the kingdom. Thus Duryodhana, with Dhritarashtra's consent, plotted to kill the young sons of Pandu, and it was only by the careful protection of their uncle Vidura and their cousin Lord Krishna that the Pandavas escaped the many attempts against their lives. Now, Lord Krishna was not an ordinary man but the supreme Godhead himself, who had descended to earth and was playing the role of a prince in a contemporary dynasty. In this role, he was also the nephew of Pandu's wife Kunti, or Pratha, the mother of the Pandavas. So, both as a relative and as the eternal upholder of religion, Krishna favored the righteous sons of Pandu and protected them. Ultimately, however, the clever Duryodhana challenged the Pandavas to gambling match. In the course of that fateful tournament, Duryodhana and his brothers took possession of Draupadi. The the chaste and devoted wife of the Pandavas, and insultingly tried to strip her naked before the entire assembly of princes and kings. Krishna's divine intervention saved her, but the gambling, which was rigged, cheated the Pandavas of their kingdom and forced them into 13 years of exile.
If anyone else wants to read it, the remaining, no, yeah, you can carry on, Krishna Prabhu.
Upon returning from exile, the Pandavas rightfully requested their kingdom from Duryodhana, who bluntly refused to yield it. Duty bound as princes to serve in public administration, the five Pandavas reduced their request to a mere 5 villages. But Duryodhana arrogantly replied that he would not spare them enough land into which to drive a pin. Throughout all this, the Pandavas had been consistently tolerant and forbearing. But now war seemed inevitable. Nonetheless, as the princes of the world divided, some siding with the sons of Dhritarashtra, others with the Pandavas. Krishna himself took the role of messenger for the sons of Pandu and went to the court of Dhritarashtra to plead for peace. When his pleas were refused, war was now certain. The Pandavas, men of the highest moral stature, recognized Krishna to be the supreme personality of Godhead, whereas the impious sons of Dhritarashtra did not. Yet Krishna offered to enter the war according to the desire of the antagonists. As God, he would not personally fight, but whoever so desired might avail himself of Krishna's army. And the other side could have Krishna himself as an advisor and helper. Duryodhana, the political genius, snatched at Krishna's armed forces, while the Pandavas were equally eager to have Krishna himself. In this way, Krishna became the charioteer of Arjuna, taking it upon himself to mm, drive the fabled bowman's chariot. This this brings us to the point at which Bhagavad Gita begins, with the two armies arrayed, ready for the combat, and Dhritarashtra anxiously inquiring of his secretary Sanjaya, what did they do? The scene is set, with only the need for a brief note regarding this translation and commentary. The general pattern translators have followed in rendering Bhagavad Gita into English has been to brush aside the person Krishna to make room for their own concepts and philosophies. The history of the Mahabharata is taken as mythology, and Krishna becomes a poetic device for presenting the ideas of the some um, anonymous genius, or the best he becomes a minor historical personage. But the person Krishna is the both the goal and the substance of Bhagavad Gita, so far as the Gita speaks of itself. This translation, then, and the commentary that accompanies it propose to direct to reader to Krishna rather than away from him. The Bhagavad Gita thus becomes wholly consistent and comprehensible. Since Krishna is the speaker of the Gita and its ultimate goal as well, the Bhagavad Gita as it is presents this great scripture in these true terms.
So thank you, Prabhu. So
Thank you.
this is the setting of why this Gita has appeared. Especially Prabhupada has put this few pages is to give us an idea of what we are reading into or what we are walking into. Many people don't know where this Bhagavad Gita is coming from. right? So Bhagavad Gita, as a book, it is part of Mahabharata. Anyone know how many verses are there in Mahabharata? How many slokas are there in Mahabharata? Can anyone guess? How many slokas are there in Mahabharata? Roughly guess. No guesses? You can open your mics.
15,000 crores.
How many, Mataji?
15,000.
Another guess? Any other person? That is too small, Mataji.
100,000 crores.
Yes. So Mahabharat, the highest number of verses in any of it, it has 100,000 verses, not one or two, 100,000 verses. The second one is, I think, is Skanda Purana, which has 80,000 verses, something like that. So the remaining all are somewhere between 25,000 or something like that. So especially, Padma Purana is 25,000 and Bhagavad Purana, I think it is 18,000, something like that. So 100,000 verses are there in Mahabharata. In that 100,000 verses, how many verses of Bhagavad Gita? This many should know. How many verses are part of Bhagavad Gita? Anyone know? Yes. 700 verses. Now think of it. Where is 100,000? Where is 700? Is there any comparison at all? There is no comparison at all. In terms of bulkiness, the body of this one is uncomparable. But the whole essence of the whole essence of Mahabharata is given in 700 verses. Even especially if we come down to, there are only 4 verses that gives the entire Srimad Bhagavad Gita. So this is very, very essential for to know, what exactly this Bhagavad Gita and where it was spoken. The most important is where it was spoken to. That is also has a very, very valid thing. Very, very valid thing. Otherwise, Krishna could spoke this one on a dining table or something when he's discussing with Dharmaraja, or in the Kurukshetra Sabha where all people are presenting it and then he give moral instructions to all the people. He didn't do all of that. Or he could give this he could give this Bhagavad Gita to Bhishmadev, who is a very great devotee of Krishna, or Vidura, who is a staunch devotee of Krishna. So there are many people who are qualified to receive this Bhagavad Gita at different times. No, Krishna choose Arjuna and Krishna choose the time also. What is the time? The time is exactly happening at the time of war. Anyone have any comment why especially Krishna choose to discuss this philosophical at the time of a war? Any guesses? Any comments? You're all smart people, you can.
It was like only at that time we will seem to listen and take that.
Yes. So, as Nainar Prabhu mentioned, war, what is happening at war? Either you get victory or you get killed. That means you are on the verge. You are walking on a thin blade, on the edge of a blade. You should be very careful. So, there is a possibility that we can die, or there is a possibility that we can get victorious. That means the situation is very, very critical actually. Very, very critical. Oh, this is okay, it's all right, I can postpone it for tomorrow. It is all right, okay, I can leisurely discuss it. I can leisurely listen it. Oh Krishna, we can discuss that when we are at a dining table. No, this is the most critical time. We have to listen attentively and act upon it right away. We have to listen attentively, act upon it right away, because the war is about to start. So this entire Bhagavad Gita is spoken before the war is getting started. Before the war is getting started. Why this is so essential for us? Because every single day, the minute we woke up to the minute we sleep, knowingly, unknowingly, we are fighting. We are in a battle situation. Our mind is constantly fighting to settle various situations in our day-to-day life. Is there any one person in this world without thinking anything, without worrying about the next day what will happen? Every single living entity is worried about what is next, what is tomorrow, because that is how we are all programmed. Constantly we are in this thing. So that is why Bhagavatam it says, Padam Padam Yat Vipadam. Every single step of our life, a danger is awaiting. This is exactly the same situation in the war. One simple mistake cost the life. So most important it is, this is the most critical time. So in Kali Yuga, all the people, all the time, constantly battling every single day. For that reason, these instructions are very, very vital, valid for the people living in Kali Yuga. So the setting, we know that one, who are all these people? So because we are all familiar with Mahabharat, I'm not going to go in-depth details of Mahabharat here, because you all know who is Dhritarashtra, who is Duryodhana, how many sons they have, who is Arjuna and Dharmaraja. We all know this story. So, but I just wants to give a little brief, how this setting has been done. So especially here, Prabhupada has mentioned this one. And the last piece I wanted to talk about it here, the translations patterns. Here, Prabhupada mentioned, as I mentioned before, if we look at on internet, we come across nearly 860 commentaries on Bhagavad Gita. And majority of those commentaries are not true translations of the work of Veda Vyas. Why? Because it is more like what I feel, what I assume. I didn't translate. I put what I feel in my mind. That means what exactly is happening? I'm not translating what Krishna spoken. I'm translating what I understood. What I understood, not what Krishna spoken. So there is a difference here actually. That is why we should pick a right book, right, a translated commentary to read it. Not every single Bhagavad Gita book is okay, it's all right, it will give the same. No, absolutely not. Because especially those who write authenticated from a sampradaya. Sampradaya means basically we coming from Brahma Sampradaya. There are also other sampradayas, Sri Sampradaya, Rudra Sampradaya, Kumara Sampradaya. So these are authentic. Authentic means they have certain standard, certain acharyas, They received the instructions from the higher ups and they followed. They followed. Their translations are accepted. Their translations are accepted. The other translations are not. Why? There is no disciplic succession. For example, we, when we go to colleges and all, we don't go to any private college. What I meant to say is one single entity and get our degree. No. For example, I started one college of myself and I have the influence. I recruited people, and after 4 years of that, I gave a degree. Now, question we need to ask is, when I give a degree, does it have any value? When did the degree I gave it gets value? Any comments from anyone? I started a college. After 4 years of their study, I gave a certificate. When did that certificate really gets value? Any comments from anyone? Are you guys all can you all hear me?
Yes, Prabhu.
Okay. When
Yes.
do we get, it is a very simple thing, right?
Yeah, whenever they went, went out and attended the interviews or started working and implementing the things.
Okay. First of all, when you go to an interview, do you get an interview first of all?
No. No, Guruji.
Why? When do we get interview?
After many trials,
Yes. Why many trials?
because we learn the mistakes what we do.
Okay.
It takes some time.
It takes some time, but before even that, what is the difference between a college that was started in a street one corner versus a college that is being established for hundreds of years? What is the difference between these two?
Experience, Prabhuji.
Is the experience is the only difference?
Experience and standards also.
Very, very
Well known
important.
to everybody.
Yes, very, very correct. Well known to everybody. Standards, it's been there. So the people who are coming from the institutions, as Mataji mentioned, they tried, they succeeded, and they are working on it. That means what? With the standards, with the experience, with the proven, now with all the three, people recognized, authenticated. This university has been there for 100 years. People are coming from here. They are producing results, helping the society. All these things establishing that person coming from off of it. Simple example, why we are always push our children to go to, in India, IITs. If the job is, if the seat is not coming in IIT, in India, what is the next line of colleges we look for? If I don't get a seat in IIT, what are the next line of colleges I seek in India? Anyone know?
REC.
RECs. Thank you, Prabhu. RECs, or now it is called NIT or whatever it is called, it is RECs. See, IIT, RECs. Then next, where do we go? After RECs, where do we go?
Universities, Prabhuji.
Universities. Thank you, Prabhu. Reputed universities, right? We don't go to college directly. We'll go to reputed universities. JNTU, Usmania, Andhra University. These are known, well-known, reputed universities. Afterwards, we come to the colleges. Even there also, we look for reputed colleges, isn't it? Reputed colleges. For example, Hyderabad, Chaitanya Bharati, or something which is being known there. which is being known there. So see the order. That means we established the authenticity. So there also, we don't read every single one, whoever is written a commentary. First of all, what is his background? Is he qualified to write a commentary? That qualification is very, very important. Is he qualified to write a commentary? I don't know how many of you read. I read, unfortunately. So some of these Bhagavad Gita, it was translated in such a way that Krishna doesn't have any value at all. Krishna is a kind of figure, abstract figure. He is not a person, abstract figure guiding the consciousness. Is what Krishna? No. Krishna is a person. Arjuna is a person. This is a real setting. Krishna is speaking to Arjuna as a person to person. Why? When did this all become abstract? So they say that the setting of Mahabharata is basically our body. Within our body, the most conscious thing, that is, Krishna and something, and mind, and Arjuna, something like that. They give all sorts of interpretations of their own. There is not even one single Purana, one single scripture is saying that Krishna is not a person. Where did this idea has come that Krishna is not a person? These commentaries are not authenticated. We can find a lot of those commentaries. So in India, plenty you can get it, these kind of commentaries. Even especially, there are some commentaries well-known people has written who are Mayavadis. Mayavadis means they only think that Advaita. I am God, you are God, we all gods. This is their concept. Unfortunately, I listened in my very early days of practicing Krishna consciousness. I read one Ramakrishna mission person is giving a class in IIT Kharagpur, I believe. He gave a 2 hours class or something. You don't believe me. After I heard that class, my mind was completely disturbed. Then, fortunately, Radhika Raman Prabhu is there with me, and I asked him. I was completely disturbed by this speech this person has given. I felt like he is so intelligent. I thought of whatever I've been listening from Prabhupada and all is not right. Then that time, Radhikaran Prabhuji said, stop going on internet and searching for whatever I am looking for. You only read authentic. Then he suggested, read this. That way I was survived. So the most important thing is we have to read, write books, and we have to hear from the right person. Why is our mind, especially the very beginning of coming into Krishna consciousness, our mind hasn't made any decisions at all. It is simply like a white paper. Whoever wants to write, they can write it. Like, if you hear more of a theistic, then you become a devotee. If you hear more of Advaita, Mayavadi's philosophy, then you become atheist. So it is basically we are swayed. Just like, in an ocean, if we fall, what happens? When we fall in the ocean, the tides of the ocean is basically some tides, they bring out, some take it in. So coming out or going in, one of these two things will happen. But what will happen? Which tide is you are falling into is the question. I don't know how many of you are experiencing the ocean. Ocean have these kinds of, right? The waves. Some waves will come and take you out. Some waves will take you back in. So when you fall, where you fall is the question. Where you fall is the question. If you fall in a wave that is coming to the shore, then you are safe. You are safe. But when you fall in a wave that is going back to the ocean, then you are in trouble. So it's very, very important. So it is not that, okay, I can read any Bhagavad Gita book. No, we have to read a book that is fully authenticated. So this is about especially the setting of this one. And now let us go to the few more pages of this one for today. And this book was especially Prabhupada has dedicated to Baladeva Vidyabhushan. I just want to give a brief about Baladeva Vidyabhushan to everyone. His name is not Vidyabhushan, that is his title. Vidya Bhushan. Bhushan means abharana, right? Ornament. Vidya. He is ornamented by this knowledge, this education. Vidya Bhushan. And this was given after he wrote a commentary called Govinda Bhashya. This is one of the top rated commentary on Vedanta philosophy. So Vyadavyas, after writing Puranas, after writing Upanishads, after writing Vedas, after writing all of this, he gave a formula. He gave a formula. You remember, we all went through elementary school to middle school to the colleges, universities, all this. Mathematics comes up with formulas, right? Pythagoras theorem, this theorem, that theorem, so many theorems will come. What are these theorems actually? If I have this formula can be generalized, applied, and solved many other problems. Like that, Vyadavyas has given one philosophy, one final thing, that is Vedanta Sutra. Vedanta Sutra. That Vedanta Sutra commented by many acharyas, including Vedavyasa himself. This Vedanta philosophy, Vedanta Sutra, was commented by the author himself, that is Vedavyasa. What is that one? That is Sri Bhagavata Purana. So the commentary of Vedanta Sutra is Bhagavata Purana. Vedavyasa has given already. But Ramanujacharya has given one. It is called Sri Bhashya. Sri Bhashya. Shankaracharya has given, that is Shankara Bhashya. Madhvacharya has given, and especially Baladev Vidyabhushan, on a request of all the devotees, he made one. This is Govinda Bhashya. And this is one of the commentary and they delivered in the shortest time, and especially there is a nice story that goes with it. So Baladev Vidyabhushan is not an ordinary person. And he himself wrote one more commentary on Bhagavad Gita that is called Gita Bhushan. He himself commented Gita Bhushan. Now, Prabhupada has taken or went through all the Acharyas' commentaries. All the Acharyas' commentaries, whoever is come before him. And he read all of that one and he put them very nicely in this book as it is. So Prabhupada always says that I haven't written this one out of my mind, out of what I felt, what I feel it. No. I followed the previous acharyas and whatever they instructed, they has given, that I am giving it in a simple way to understand. So Nothing has been altered. This is unaltered. That is, especially here, he dedicated to this one. Now, the next one is preface. How many people have the habit of reading preface? Do all people read preface? What is preface? Anyone know what is preface?
Like the cover page on the book, and what is the book all about?
Yes, that is correct. This is more like a simple example. This is more like, I don't know how many are familiar with veranda in the house or portico in the house, right? Before we enter into the home, what do we see in general? We see a veranda, we see a portico where you can put a chair or something. Basically, we walk into the home before we enter the place where it is. So preface is basically what it is all about this book. Earlier is setting, that is not about the book, but here this is talking about what about is this book. That is what it is. We have 5 more minutes or 10 more minutes. I think I don't know whether we can go through this one, but this is a very good page. I sincerely request every one of you to read it. At least we can cover a couple of pages, couple of paragraphs today. The rest you can read it, and the next week we will cover the introduction. That's where the whole essence comes. So any other person would like to read the preface?
I'll read, Prabhuji.
Yes, Mataji, please.
Originally, I wrote Bhagavad Gita as it is in the form in which it is presented now. When this book was first published, the original manuscript was unfortunately cut short to less than 400 pages without illustrations and without explanations for most of the original verses of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita. In all of my other books, Srimad Bhagavatam, Sri Ishopanishad, etc., the system is that I give the original words, its English transliteration, word for word Sanskrit English equivalents, translation and purports. This makes the book very authentic and scholarly and makes the meaning self-evident. I was not very happy, therefore, when I had to minimize my original manuscript. But later on, when the demand for Bhagavad Gita as it is considerably increased, I was requested by many scholars and devotees to present the book in its original form. Thus, the present attempt is to offer the original manuscript of this great book of knowledge with full parampara explanation in order to establish the Krishna consciousness movement more soundly and progressively. Our Krishna consciousness movement is genuine, historically authorized, natural, and transcendental due to its being based on Bhagavad Gita as it is. It is gradually becoming the most popular movement in the entire world, especially amongst the younger generation. It is becoming more and more interesting to the older generation also. Older gentlemen are becoming interested so much so that the fathers and grandfathers of my disciples are encouraging us by becoming life members of our great society, the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. In Los Angeles, many fathers and mothers used to come to see me to express their feelings of gratitude for my leading the Krishna consciousness movement throughout the entire world. Some of them said that it is greatly fortunate for the Americans that I have started the Krishna consciousness movement in America. But actually, the original father of this movement is Lord Krishna himself, since it was started a very long time ago, but it is coming down to human society by disciplic succession. If I have any credit in this connection, it does not belong to me personally, but it is due to my eternal spiritual master, His Divine Grace, Om Vishnupada Paramahamsa Parivarajikacharya, 108 Sri Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaja Prabhupada. If personally I have any credit in this matter, it is only that I have tried to present Bhagavad Gita as it is without any adulteration. Before my presentation of Bhagavad Gita as it is, almost all the English editions of Bhagavad Gita were introduced to fulfill someone's personal ambition. But our attempt in presenting Bhagavad Gita as it is is to present the mission of the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna. Our business is to present the will of Krishna, not that of any mundane speculator like the politician, philosopher, or scientist, for they have very little knowledge of Krishna, despite all their other knowledge. When Krishna says, Manmana bhava madbhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru, etc., we, unlike the so-called scholars, do not say that Krishna and his inner spirit are different. Krishna is absolute, and there is no difference between Krishna's name, Krishna's form, Krishna's qualities, Krishna's pastimes, etc. This absolute position of Krishna is difficult to understand for any person who is not a devotee of Krishna in the system of parampara, disciplic succession. Generally, the so-called scholars, politicians, philosophers, and swamis, without perfect knowledge of Krishna, try to banish or kill Krishna when writing commentary on Bhagavad Gita. Such unauthorized commentary upon Bhagavad Gita is known as Mayavada Bhashya. And Lord Chaitanya has warned us about these unauthorized men. Lord Chaitanya clearly says that anyone who tries to understand Bhagavad Gita from the Mayavadi point of view will commit a great blunder. The result of such a blunder will be that the misguided student of Bhagavad Gita will certainly be bewildered on the path of spiritual guidance and will not be able to go back to home, back to Godhead. Our only purpose is to present this Bhagavad Gita as it is in order to guide the conditioned student to the same purpose for which Krishna descends to this planet once in a day of Brahma or every sorry Prabhuji, I don't know that long number.
That is basically 8.6 billion years, Mataji.
8.6 billion years. This purpose is stated in the Bhagavad Gita and we have to accept it as it is. Otherwise, there is no point in trying to understand the Bhagavad Gita and its speaker, Lord Krishna. Lord Krishna first spoke Bhagavad Gita to the sun god some hundred of millions of years ago. We have to accept this fact and thus understand the historical significance of Bhagavad Gita without misinterpretation on the authority of Krishna. To interpret Bhagavad Gita without any reference to the will of Krishna is the greatest offense. In order to save oneself from this offense, one has to understand the Lord as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as he was directly understood by Arjuna, Lord Krishna's first disciple. Such understanding of Bhagavad Gita is really profitable and authorized for the welfare of human society in fulfilling the mission of life. The Krishna consciousness movement is essential in human society, for it offers the highest perfection of life. How this is so is explained fully in the Bhagavad Gita. Unfortunately, mundane wranglers have taken advantage of Bhagavad Gita to push forward their demonic propensities and misled people regarding right understanding of the simple principles of life. Everyone should know how God or Krishna is great, and everyone should know the factual position of the living entities. Everyone should know that a living entity is eternally a servant, and that unless one serves Krishna, one has to serve illusion in different varieties of the three modes of material nature, and thus wander perpetually within the cycle of birth and death. Even the so-called liberated Mayavadi speculator has to undergo this process. This knowledge constitutes a great science, and each and every living being has to hear it for his own interest. People in general, especially in this age of Kali, are enamored by the external energy of Krishna, and they wrongly think that by advancement of material comforts, every man will be happy. They have no knowledge that the material or external nature is very strong, for everyone is strongly bound by the stringent laws of material nature. A living entity is happily the part and parcel of the Lord, and thus his natural function is to render immediate service to the Lord. By the spell of illusion, one tries to be happy by serving his personal sense gratification in different forms, which will never make him happy. Instead of satisfying his own personal material senses, he has to satisfy the senses of the Lord. That is the highest perfection of life. The Lord wants this, and he demands it. One has to understand the central point of Bhagavad Gita. Our Krishna conscious movement is teaching the whole world this central point, and because we are not polluting the theme of Bhagavad Gita as it is, anyone seriously interested in deriving benefit by studying the Bhagavad Gita must take help from the Krishna consciousness movement for practical understanding of Bhagavad Gita under the direct guidance of the Lord. We hope, therefore, that people will derive the greatest benefit by studying Bhagavad Gita as it is, as we have presented it here. And if even one man becomes a pure devotee of the Lord, we shall consider our attempt a success. A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, 12th May 1971, Sydney, Australia.
Thank you, Mataji. So,
Thank you.
so this one is especially a very a wonderful way of putting things all together. Why this book is so special? As I mentioned, very beginning of it is, these are not thoughts and ideas of Prabhupada. No, as he mentioned it, he got all this from his previous acharyas. So his guru is Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Thakur. From him, his father is a guy, Vinod Thakur, Bhakti Vinod Thakur. He got it from his guru Jagannath Das Babaji, and from, if we go the line up, Vishwanath Baladev Vidyabhushan, Vishwanath Chakravarti, and then Narottama Das Thakur, Lokanath Goswamis, all the 6 Goswamis, then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Ishwar Puri, Madhavendra Puri, and if you go further up and up, so you end up with touching Madhvacharya. Madhvacharya got it from Vyadavyasa. Vyadavyasa got it from Narada. Narada got it from Brahma. Brahma got it from Lord Krishna. That is why this sampradaya is called Brahma Sampradaya, or sometimes it is called Brahma Madhva Sampradaya. So the original speaker of this one is Krishna. So whoever is connected to this chain, all are connected to Krishna directly. So this connection, this is what we discussed earlier. When I receive a certificate from an authentic university, that means that university has gone through so many years of it. So many people have come from that university. So many people are working, proven, everything. That is what it is needed. So this is not something that someone out of his mind has written it. So I will stop it here for today. And so now we have everything. We glorified Bhagavad Gita, we understand the setting, and we read why Prabhupada has given this one. Why especially we went through this much is, we must have a right mindset to understand Bhagavad Gita thoroughly. We are studying Bhagavad Gita, we are not reading Bhagavad Gita. We are studying Bhagavad Gita. To study means we have to have a right mindset. Without that mindset, we can't get much out of it. For example, I just come, I want to kill an hour time. If I go outside, I spend money and all, instead of wasting time all there, I come here and I just sit for 1 hour and I just do it. That's not going to help much, because the mindset should be, I must attend this class, I must participate, I must try to understand what is going on here. That means this is like a proactive. It's like a proactive. I prepared, I come prepared, I'm ready to understand. That is the mindset. That eagerness to know is pretty much required for us to understand Bhagavad Gita. For that reason, we are reading all of this one. Now, next class, we'll start off with introduction. Introduction is pretty much like, a summary study of the entire Bhagavad Gita. Which section or which chapter is giving what verse or something like that. So that is what is going to be. So I'll stop it here and let us hear few minutes, any comments or questions.